first contact with Joshua Put.
Hello Earthlings, how you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Glad that you could be here. A lot going on today. Let's jump right into it so we can make sure we get to everything. First of all, today is the 11th day of October, the year 2017 on the Jewish calendar. It is the 21st day of Tishri, It is the day called Hoshana Rabbah. It is the last day of the celebration of Sukkot, which is a time of remembrance of the Exodus and the faith that was exhibited by those traveling through the desert all those years. Okay, when we go over to the astrology for today, our sun sign is still in Libra, 18 degrees Libra. So we're going to track this all the way to that 30-degree mark so we could see when it makes the transition over. So again, with Libra, air sign, looking to balance out our life by saying and doing the things that help us, and equally as important, if not more important, making sure we avoid saying the things that hurt us or doing things that hurt ourselves. Self-inflicted wounds are never good. Our moon sign here is in Cancer. Cancer is a sign that is all about emotions. This is the astrological sign of Cancer, represented by the tarot card of the Chariot. The Chariot wears all of this armor so that the charioteer can be protected from all of the emotions that go on during the course of a normal activity, one of his, a day or what have you. We protect ourselves because there's so many emotions out there, so much energy out there. Remember, we're moving in a field of energy. Well, this is what this suggests, that we are within a field of energy, and therefore we need to be protected, because within this field of energy are all sorts of energies that are bouncing around, moving around, that if we don't find a way to deal with it, then we could find ourselves in a very problematic situation. We don't want that, certainly not at all. All right, let's jump over to the news, get into some things that aren't really being discussed. First of all, the Supreme Court dismisses the challenge to President Trump's travel ban. Didn't hear about this, did you? Well, probably not. The Supreme Court has vacated a decision by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit against President Donald Trump's travel ban on several Muslim-majority communities or countries. The High Court has yet to decide on another challenge brought by the state of Hawaii, which has been upheld by the Ninth Circuit. The challenge, still before the Supreme Court, comes out of Hawaii and deals with the revised travel ban in 6 Muslim-majority countries, as well as a separate ban on refugees. The refugee ban is not set to expire until October 24th. The High Court ruled Tuesday that because the provision in question expired by its own terms on September 24th, the appeal no longer presents a live case or controversy. They vacated the case, which will be remanded to the Fourth Circuit with instructions to dismiss as moot the challenge to the March 6th executive order. Justice Sonia Sotomayor was the only dissenting opinion in the Tuesday challenge. Sotomayor agreed that the Supreme Court should not hear the case, but argued that the ruling from the Fourth Circuit should have been kept in place. The previous order was challenged by Hawaii as unconstitutional effort by the president to fulfill his campaign promise to erect a Muslim ban. Neil Katal, a lawyer representing Hawaii, argued that the court should not overturn the lower court's ruling because of the Trump administration's voluntary actions. Any mootness will be entirely the consequence of the government's voluntary actions in managing the timing of the bans. Declining to speak in a swift hearing on the merits and rebooting its old ban on the new order, Katyal said, according to the Washington Post. However, Solicitor General Noel Francisco told the justices that since the travel ban was revised, temporary measures under the review would have been superseded. If this court were to continue to hear these appeals, it would have asked to decide questions with no ongoing practical import, he said in the Post. A hearing on the third executive order brought by the American Civil Liberties Union is scheduled for October 17th. So this is very important. I don't know why it's such a difficult thing to understand. All one has to do is look back and see that for 1,600 years, radical jihadists who are Muslim have been sneaking into countries in order to conquer those countries. Okay, it's just a matter of looking at history. When we look at those who are going into the countries, they are fighting age males. They are not small children. They are not women. They're fighting age males, and they're going in and they're saying outright that they are there to conquer the civilization, to breed with the women until they breed everything out except the Muslims that they want to have born into the world. It is a conquest that is going on. President Trump is aware of this. Just because the Democratic side and the liberal side of our American system here is out to get us, want to have all of these immigrants or these invaders come in and attack, just because they're too stupid to be aware of history doesn't mean the rest of the people need to be penalized or harmed by their stupid decisions. Because I guarantee you, all these crazy, liberals who are screaming open borders, this and that, if they themselves were in trouble by the very people that they claimed were the ones who they should let in, these individuals be the first ones calling for help, screaming louder than everybody on why they weren't protected. So before they start screaming why they weren't protected, we're going to protect them in advance, just knowing that the people who are screaming for the open borders really aren't fully aware of the situation, really aren't fully aware of the ways in which they have been using this tactic for 1600 years. So they can pretend to be stupid. We don't have to be. We don't have to be. Okay, moving along, the next story we're hearing tons of information about is Harvey Weinstein case. Well, Hollywood now is starting to give responses of this situation, and the responses are very predictable. Many of these celebrities have come out and saying, and this is like Meryl Streep or George Clooney or some of the others that are out there, oh my gosh, we didn't know that this was going on. George Clooney says that he'd heard rumors of this, but he really didn't take it serious. Okay, so we're supposed to believe that these members of the Hollywood inner circle who are priding themselves on having agents and managers that have the awareness of everything going on in the business, we're supposed to believe that these people suddenly are clueless to something that was going on with a producer that they've all worked with at some time or another. We're just supposed to pretend that this didn't happen. Well, then what about all of those who are coming forward showing and claiming that it did happen? Are we just supposed to dismiss them? Because it seems that those who are denying this want us to do that. And then, of course, you have those who are the apologists, like Lindsay Lohan, obviously a victim to all of this. It's not really too difficult to see her crazy behavior and understand that she at some point in time was molested and abused, probably by someone within the industry, and she's out there defending poor Harvey. That's a really bad situation. Someone obviously screwed up really bad in order to defend somebody that potentially harmed them. Well, for all of the Hollywood hypocrisy claiming they don't know what's going on, I just want to bring this clip up for you. I'm going to leave this for you to listen to on your own accord. Here it is. Seth MacFarlane calls out Harvey Weinstein back in 2013. That's right. In 2013, that was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. So all these actors that are saying we knew nothing about this, they will all laugh. They thought this joke was funny back in 2013, 4 years ago, but suddenly they have selective memory on what they do remember and what they don't. It's a bunch of nonsense. They're actors who are getting paid to act, to pretend. They're pretending in this regard in the same way. You can't let them off the hook. Okay, just like the NFL, can't let them off the hook because now suddenly they want to stand up because they're being called out, because their league is losing money, because the president has questioned why they are getting a tax-exempt status, while at the same time hurting the American reputation by kneeling and not showing respect. And anybody else who doesn't understand this, look, go to your place of employment and you do what you want to do over there without the company being aware of it. Go there and try that and see how that works. You see, everyone's screaming they have their First Amendment right. They do. But guess who also has a First Amendment right? The company that employed them. And I would think that that First Amendment right of that company that employed them and the reputation of that company supersedes their personal interests as individuals because they came to that company to work for that company. Therefore, if that company wants to show itself in a certain light, then it is duty bound upon the employees to fulfill that, to behave that way. If they do not, then they need to be removed from the registry of employees for that organization because they are not following the rules. So the NFL should have a set of rules. This is a workplace. All these athletes who are going there and kneeling down, what's your end game? How long are you going to keep kneeling? Have you provided any sort of list of demands or things that you want to have happen? No, because you're just a bunch of dumb idiots who are kneeling down. We're doing it because Colin did it. This had nothing to do with the flag. Well, guess what, dumbasses? Colin Kaepernick said he was kneeling down because he wasn't going to show respect for a flag. Okay, so he's doing it for the flag. So all of you dumbass NFL athletes out there who's saying you're doing it for Colin, but it's not about the flag, I guess you didn't really listen to what he said. So now you're just going on and you're kneeling to kneel just to show that you're an ignorant human being, ignorant to all of the cries and complaints people have about what you're doing. But you keep going and doing what you're doing and then keep wondering why the American people are turning you off. Because we're seeing your ignorance and we're understanding that you're not for the American people, that you're ungrateful individuals who need to be weeded out. Okay? A lot of weeding going on these days. Weeding out in Hollywood, weeding out in politics, weeding out in sports. It's going to continue to happen. Okay? The swamp is a big swamp. There's swamp creatures in all of these aspects of life. We're seeing swamp creatures in the NFL, in Hollywood, in politics, everywhere. Okay, so check this out. You'll hear Seth MacFarlane in his own words talking about that Weinstein situation 4 years ago. Okay, jumping ahead now, let's take a quick look over at the MGM or the Vegas shooting. Here we have a statement. MGM says the police timeline of the Vegas massacre may not be accurate. Okay. MGM has issued a statement questioning the most recent timeline that was provided by the police for the Las Vegas massacre, saying it may not be accurate. This remains an ongoing investigation with lots of moving parts, said MGM research spokesman Deborah Deschong. As evidenced by law enforcement briefings over the past week, many faces are still unverified and continue to change. Many facts are still unverified and continue to change as the events are under review. We cannot be certain about the more recent timeline has been communicated publicly, and we believe what is currently being expressed may not be accurate, reports the New York Post. Ms. DeShong added, we understand the public's desire for information and the importance of getting our community and the public at large the information they deserve. We are doing everything we can to support law enforcement's efforts to do so. Therefore, it is not appropriate for us to comment further at this time on what remains an open matter for law enforcement. MGM's statement comes just one day after police officials revealed that the Mandalay security guard who was credited with heroically stalling a Las Vegas shooter may actually have been shot before the rampage take place. Not only was he potentially shot, but the story goes that not only was he shot, but he kind of waited while the shooting took place, just pulled himself up, leaned against the wall while the shooting took place. Didn't try to stop anything because he was injured, but later apparently he was able to go and help with searching of rooms. But it doesn't really sound like the actions of a hero. It sounds like this story is being made up as they go along, because we already heard what is most likely the accurate story, that this was a gun-running deal gone bad, and the FBI has egg on their face, and they're trying to cover it up. You watch the press conferences, you see the creepy FBI dude standing behind the Las Vegas police deputies or under deputy that is announcing stuff. He's standing there. You could see him. He's got his hand up their back like a puppet, telling them everything they need to say. It's despicable. It's despicable they're going along with it. They're ruining their credibility. Las Vegas shooter, Reno home broken into, FBI revisiting red flags. The Las Vegas shooter's Reno home was broken into last weekend, causing another round of police activity. The FBI is revisiting the location. Can we trust the FBI to get to the bottom of anything these days? It's hard to think of them as anything corrupt, so this break-in smells like something is just not right. That is absolutely correct. Something is just not right. We've heard the various different stories that you're trying to tell. All you got to do is look up. Yesterday I played you a forensic, or I gave you a link to a forensic investigation of acoustic sounds to show that there was multiple shooters. You can go online, Google in multiple shooters. You'll find there are multiple shooters that were talked about. You can go back to links of the shows from last week, and you can read the interviews of eyewitnesses about the multiple shooters. I saw one last night. I was trying to find a link. I didn't save it. It was a comparison of the guns used to show that it wasn't a bump stock that was used, because there was a gentleman in the video shooting a bump stock gun, playing that in comparison to the shooting sounds, and then he was shooting a gun that had one of those loads of strings of bullets you just load in, and you see him, loading in. Sounded exactly the same like the shooter. So a lot of discrepancies. People aren't being told the truth. It's a big cover-up, but it looks like it was a huge screw-up, that there was a bigger event that was going on. And at this point in time, I'm guessing that these things are just all distractions for bigger issues going on. Namely, one of the biggest cases of treason that's ever hit the United States, and that is involving the Awan brothers. So there's a bunch of information and links I'm going to provide you here. First, we have a story about what's going on with the Awan brothers. Perhaps you lost track of the Democrats' slowly exploding IT scandal, as much of the media is doing all it can to simply ignore it away. I'm referring to the strange case of Iran Awam, the IT aide, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, kept on her congressional payroll even after being known that he and his wife, Alvi, were being investigated by Capitol Police for possible theft, fraud, moving terabytes of data off the Congress system, and more. Okay, here we have another story. Muslim IT spy Imran Awan's own wife accuses him of fraud. The indicted husband-wife team of former IT aides to Democratic Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz sat directly across from each other at the defendant's table in federal court Friday in Washington, D.C., but refused to look at each other. Even as they are co-defendants in a U.S. case, Imran Awan's own wife, Hina Alvi, has become the latest person to accuse him of fraud, filing papers against him in the Pakistani court, according to Pakistani news channel RI. So we could see that there's problems going on within the family of the Awans. Okay, what I'm showing you here, this is a video you're going to want to watch. It's an hour and 44 minutes in length. Very good interview about this hearing that took place in front of congressional members the other day. This was being presented, the gentleman presenting the information up here, sitting up front here, we have Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. We have Luke Rosiak, who's an investigative reporter of the Daily Caller. And of course, this gentleman is another IT expert who was there to provide additional support. We have Representative Gomert, and this entire discussion here is about what's going on with the case. The bottom line is that you had members, 4 to 5 members of the Awan family from Pakistan, who were working for up to 40 members of the DNC. Okay, 40 members of the DNC over their time. There were a lot of complaints about the work that they were doing, that they weren't qualified individuals. There were complaints about a variety of issues that they had with these 20 some odd or 40 some odd DNC members. Over the course of the time there was a lot of security breaches that took place, a lot of unauthorized logins, thousands of unauthorized logins that took place, and then there was a data breach where information from these DNC members were being transferred off of their computers in huge, large amounts off to off-site servers. So big problems here that's going on. There was equipment that was missing, stolen, hundreds, $1,000s of equipment. And now, of course, we have the wife, which is turning against the husband. So we could see this is a big situation. This case is far from over. There's a lot of investigation to be had with this case. We do not want to lose sight of what's going on, because this is a very important matter. As I said at the beginning of this story, this is probably one of the biggest cases of treason that has ever occurred in the United States of America. And of course, this occurred during the time when President Obama was in office, and all of his members of his party were out there complicit in all of these activities. You see, the previous 8 years, the administration was not very kind to America. They weren't very America friendly, and over the course of time, the promise that Barack Obama made to fundamentally transform America is exactly what he did. So we need to fully be aware as we're moving forward of all of the systems that have been put in place to sabotage our country, and we need to remove those. Each and every individual here in America needs to take responsibility for what's going on, because now each and every individual in America has an opportunity to either be part of the change in a positive way or be part of the problem. We can all be part of the positive change by realizing now is the time for us to stand up and speak out. The time for silence is over. It's time for us to stand up and speak out because one person after another are speaking out. So that should encourage others to speak out. We're seeing it in all of these different challenges that were going on where individuals are slowly coming forward. And each one that comes forward brings encouragement to the next person. So that's all a good thing. So we need to just to keep encouraging each other. We need to continue to develop and grow our patriotism, which we've lost over the course of the last 8 to 10, 12 years. But we're starting to get it back now. Patriotism is just simply loving the country that we're in, understanding and appreciating what America is about. It's not trying to discount other countries. It's simply honoring who we are. Just how each individual wants to honor who they are as a person, same thing as a country. Okay? I'm not going to pretend that I love Pakistan because I don't live in Pakistan. I don't live in Saudi Arabia. I don't live in Germany or China or Japan or any place else. I live in the United States of America. And you know what? I love living in the United States of America. I don't want to go and move anyplace else because I've heard about other places. And from my opinion, this is the best place for me. So I'm going to stay here. Now, I know there's a lot of Americans think that way, but there's a lot who don't. There's a lot who think America's not a very good place to be. And that's sad that they think that way. I know a lot of people are younger that think that way, especially those who came around after 9/11 because they really never saw the greatness of America because we've had this additional security imposed on us ever since. But believe me, America used to be great. There are so many things about America that were much better than now. Just one thing off the top of my head is traveling. People could travel. They could fly from one location to the next. They wouldn't have to go to the airport and risk being groped by some TSA agent. They wouldn't have to stand in front of an x-ray machine to have their privates photographed and kept on some servers. Okay, so just that in itself would make a big deal because when you go to travel, there's a stress that goes along with that travel. And when a person has to go and encounter the security measures, that adds stress to their traveling. Imagine if people didn't have that stress. Traveling might be a different experience without all of that added stressfulness and problems that go along with it. So there's one way America was great. There's plenty of other ways. We just need to teach the young people who aren't fully aware that there was greatness that they certainly didn't have an opportunity to be a part of then, but do have an opportunity to be a part of now. Okay? So that's what's going on with those major cases, but we're not done yet. This is an important story here. A giant mysterious hole has opened up in Antarctica. A hole as large as Lake Superior or the state of Maine has opened up in Antarctica, and scientists aren't sure why it's there. The gigantic mysterious hole is quite remarkable. Atmospheric physicist Kent Moore, a professor at the University of Toronto's Mississauga campus, told me over the phone, it looks like he just punched a hole in the ice. Areas of open water surrounded by sea ice, such as the one we are known as Polyanius, they form in coastal regions of Antarctica. Moore told me what's strange here is though this Polyana is deep in the ice pack, he said, and must have formed through other processes that aren't understood. This is hundreds of kilometers from the ice edge. If we didn't have a satellite, we wouldn't know it was there. At Pollyanna was observed in the same location in Antarctica's Wendell Sea in the 1970s, according to Moore, who's been working with the Southern Ocean Carbon and Climate Observations and Modeling Group based at Princeton University to analyze what's going on. Back then, scientists' observation tools weren't nearly as good, so the hole remained largely unstudied. Then it went away for 4 decades until last year when it reopened for a few weeks. Now it's back again. This is now the second year in a row it's opened after 40 years of not being there, Moore said. We're still trying to figure out what's going on. It's tempting to blame the strange hole in the climate change, which is reshaping so much of our world, including Antarctica, but Moore said that's premature. Scientists can say with certainty, though, that the Pollyanna will have a wider impact on the oceans. Once the sea ice melts back, you have huge temperature contrast between the ocean and the atmosphere. Moore explaining can start driving convection. Denser, colder water sinks to the bottom of the ocean, while warmer water comes to the surface, which can keep the Pollyanna open once it starts. Using observations from satellites and deep-sea robots, Moore said his collaborators are working on yet unpublished research that aims to answer some of these questions. Compared to 40 years ago, the amount of data we have is amazing. Antarctica is undergoing massive changes right now, and figuring out why the gaping hole could suddenly open up will be a key to understanding larger systems of play. So we're still having trouble figuring out different systems here on Earth. However, we can tell with accuracy what's going on out there millions of miles away in the solar system, because we have those machines that are flying out there taking these pictures, sending them back. And if we believe that all that is accurate, then we believe the universe is what they say it is. And if we are questioning, well, then maybe we're doing the right thing, questioning. It's a lot to question. A lot to question. All right, let's go check out the daily thought for today. This was in the Jewish calendars. Today's date, the highest happiness. True happiness is the highest form of self-sacrifice. There, in that state, there is no sense of self, not even awareness that you are happy. True happiness is somewhere beyond knowing, beyond self, all the more so when you bring joy to others. Okay, that's very important, being happy. You know, we go through life and the questions we should be asking ourselves, are we really happy? Sometimes we can answer yes, sometimes we can answer no. But one thing for certain is we have an opportunity to change that in our lives. If we want to be happy, sometimes just stating to the universe that we want to be happy and find happiness in life will lead us to those exact discoveries of happiness. Sometimes we may choose to be happy and just find ourselves being happy simply because we keep experiencing more and more happy events. So it's really very fascinating the way that when we put out these positive, happy thoughts, how it comes back into our lives. Not only personally, but collectively, because large groups can do exactly that. And what we in America are finding out, what we the people are finding out, is that we have a tremendous amount of power to be able to affect things by having this group consciousness come together to make the changes we want. So let us take a moment. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, thank you for the blessings of this day. May we open our mind to the opportunities available to us. May we be clear in our intentions of those positive things we want to put in the world, and may we be diligent in helping to alleviate the darkness and the problems that face all of us. For we know that we are all in this together, and if we work together, we find the solutions to the problems that we all have. So let's go forth this day, my friends. Let us see this as another opportunity to make our lives great, to make America great, to make the world a great place. We're all great individuals. We have the opportunity. So why do we keep catering to all of the bad things and the dark, nasty, ugly things? Okay? It's just somebody else's ideologies that we do that. But if we follow the ideology of God, then we look for God. We look for the good. We look for the positive. And that's really the most important thing for all of our lives. So let's find the God today, my friends. Let's find the positive. Let's keep sharing that, and let's make the difference in the world that we can make. That's all I have for today. I will be back tomorrow with more news and information. If you like the show, click the subscribe button. Visit me at firstcontactradio.com. Till then, I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.